Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mount Mindset. Did you know that only 5% of people achieve real success in life? That surprised me when I first heard that. It's quite a statement, and one person discovered why, and his name was Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale was famous for creating an audio book with one of the first audio recordings, and a book that he'd written called The Strangest Secret. And The Strangest Secret is what we're going to dive into today. And I thought I would do a review of a spectacular, fabulous, fantastic YouTube account called After School. Now, you might have heard that before because I've reviewed one of their previous videos, and they did a great video on the Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. What we're going to go into is that we're going to break this video down into sections. We're going to play through After School's fantastic work. I'll leave the link in the show notes. Please go and check this out. Please go and subscribe to their channel because they do fantastic work in terms of their artwork, how they explain things in pictures, how they take abstract ideas and make them simple to understand. And there's no better one than this one that we're going to go into today. So let's get stuck in and we will find out what this strangest secret is and why only 5% of people achieve real success. So let's have a look. Great intro from After School. Always loved the start of their videos.
I'd like to tell you about the strangest secret in the world. Some years ago, the late Nobel Prize-winning Dr. Albert Schweitzer was being interviewed in London, and a reporter asked him, "Doctor, what's wrong with men today?" And the great doctor was silent a moment, and then he said, "Men simply don't think." It's about this that I want to talk with you. We live today in a golden age. This is an era that man has looked forward to, dreamed of, and worked toward for thousands of years. But since it's here, we pretty well take it for granted. We in America are particularly fortunate to live in the richest land that ever existed on the face of the earth, a land of abundant opportunity for everyone. But do you know what happens? Well, let's take 100 men who start even at the age of 25. Do you have any idea what will happen to those men by the time they're 65? These 100 men who all start even at the age of 25 believe they're going to be successful. If you asked any one of these men if he wanted to be a success, he'd tell you he did. And you'd notice that he was eager toward life, that there was a certain sparkle to his eye, an erectness to his carriage, and life seemed like a pretty interesting adventure to him. But by the time they're 65, 1 will be rich. 4 will be financially independent. 5 will still be working. 54 will be broke. Now think a moment. Out of the 100, only 5 make the grade. Now why do so many fail? What has happened to the sparkle that was there when they were 25? What's become of the dreams, the hopes, the plans? And why is there such a large disparity between what these men intended to do and what they actually accomplished? When we say about 5% achieve success, we have to define success.
So let's break this down. What Earl's pointing out to here is an interview that a doctor had been asked the question, what's wrong with men today? And he simply said, men don't think. It was one of the famous quotes I had in my office that was by Henry Ford. And he says, thinking is one of the most difficult tasks that there is. That's why so few men take part in it. And he was famous for turning around being a trailblazer in the automotive industry, really making it the powerhouse that we know today. And the interesting thing here is what Earl's saying is that people have an intent. So their intention is to get a better result in life. They want to succeed. They have aspirations. But why do so many fail? What's going on? And what's this got to do with thinking? Because you would think, well, if people are going about their lives, they have hopes, they have dreams, they have desires, why is the success rate so low? How is it possible that people can't seem to get the results in life? And what is even more fascinating about this video is, as you've probably seen at the start, if you didn't notice, this was released in 1957. So not just yesterday. This has been around for a long time. And even more so now, this is even more apparent because the amount of people that have a successful life is arguably getting lower. the information age gives us access to material. So you would believe that with the world being more connected and information being more readily available, people should be smashing it out of the park. And I would say it's going the other way. So it goes on to say, what's happened to these people? You know, you take these people, an interesting one is why is there's 100 guys, and I think there was 57 of them that were, you know, broke. There was 5 that were a success, and you've got 1 that's ultra rich. So I think the rest of them shuffled off this mortal shelf. So hopefully today we're getting a bit better mortality rate. But here's what he goes on to say is, what is success? Because it's the definition of success, and what he's going to build into here is someone who works towards a goal. Now, let's connect those 2 dots. What your intention is, what you think about, and what goal you're aiming at. So let's see what he's got to say about that.
Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Rollo May, the distinguished psychiatrist, wrote a wonderful book called Man's Search for Himself. And in this book he says, the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice. It is conformity. And there you have the trouble today. It's conformity, people acting like everyone else without knowing why, without knowing where they're going.
Well, there's a really, really great part. I've never heard of Rollo May up until now, but what a wise guy this was. This very, very clever observation that he's made. So the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it is conformity, meaning that if you try and be like everyone else, then that's a big problem. Now think of social media, think of the technology age, think of people trying to fit into boxes, or you know, they're not original. They're not carving out their own path. They're not spending their time creating their life. They're spending their time trying to focus on others' life. So Rollo, very, very great observation, very smart. So let's see how it goes on.
In America right now, there are over 18 million people 65 years of age and older. And most of them are broke. They're dependent on someone else for life's necessities.
So 18 million people in America, and bear in mind this is 1957, there is 18 million people over the age of 65 that are broke, that rely on handouts from other people to get by. It's scary. 18 million people in the greatest economy in the wealthiest country with the great American dream. There's 18 million people existing that can't get by on their own. That tells you that there's something going on there. So let's see how it unfolds.
Now, we learn to read by the time we're 7. We learn to make a living by the time we're 25. Usually by that time we're not only making a living, we're supporting a family. And yet by the time we're 65, we haven't learned how to become financially independent in the richest land that has ever been known. Why? We conform. And the trouble is that we're acting like the wrong percentage group, the 95 who don't succeed. Now, why do these people conform? Well, they really don't know. These people believe that their lives are shaped by circumstances, by things that happen to them, by exterior forces.
So there's another great point that Earl's making here is that people conform to the wrong group. And what he's alluding to here is that people blame. This is a blame game. This is a victim mentality. It was this. It was circumstances. This happened. That's why I couldn't do it. That's why I didn't do it, and so on and so on and so on. So this is really, really pretty profound that even what would it be, 64 years later, 67 years later, this is still true. It's still true today. Whole group of people limiting themselves, disabling their future, disabling their potential, disabling their talent, because they're conforming to a group of people that just blame circumstances.
They're outer-directed people. A survey was made one time that covered a lot of men, working men, and these men were asked, why do you work? Why do you get up in the morning? 19 out of 20 had no idea. If you ask them, they'll say, well, everyone goes to work in the morning, and that's the reason they do it, because everyone else is doing it.
Another point there, he's saying, look, why are there's 19 out of 20 people that were asked says that they don't know why they're going to work. They don't know what the purpose of their day is. And their answer is because everyone else does it. I mean, that shows that they're not connecting to their mind. They're not connecting to this world to go, hey, look, let me think originally. Let me think outside the box. Let me carve the life that I would like to have if they fell into a box. And that would have been even more apparent in the industrial age when this book was written. And now, even in the technology age, it still exists. But today, there's a lot of people have much more opportunity now than they did then. So it's definitely got much easier. But yet still, we've got a similar problem where if you asked 100 people, how many of them would know their purpose, know what fulfills them, and would any of them be living that life? It'd be an interesting question. What do you think?
Now let's get back to our definition of success. Who succeeds? The only person who succeeds is the person who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal. He's the person who says, I'm going to become this, and then begins to work toward that goal.
Right, so that's pretty lofty language, and again, it would have been probably really accurate at the time this video was made. We'll sort of modernise the grammar. A person who is progressively realising a worthy ideal is basically saying that someone that works towards a goal. So they're taking steps gradually to becoming the person that they want to be. That's essentially what that sentence means. And what we're doing is we're relating the start of this video was you have an intent that you want to do something great, and then you set a goal for whatever that is, an ideal that you would aim for, and then you gradually take steps to get there. So you can see the theme developing here, which is pretty interesting. Again, I'll just remind you, please check out this video, The Strangest Secret to Success by Earl Nightingale on After School. Fabulous, fabulous video. Very, very grateful to be able to do a review on this. Channel's great. The guys that do it, they're fantastic. So please go along and make the effort to check them out. But let's get back to the video.
I'll tell you who the successful people are. A success is the school teacher who's teaching school because that's what he or she wants to do. The success is the woman who's a wife and mother because she wanted to become a wife and mother and is doing a good job of it. The success is the man who runs the corner gas station because that was his dream. That's what he wanted to do. The success is the successful salesman who wants to become a top-notch salesman and grow and build with his organization.
So here's an interesting thing is that, you know, people think success is all about money, the financial side of it. And I can tell you from being able to speak to people who, from a variety of different backgrounds. I've been fortunate enough to speak to some of the best performers in the world in terms of financial productivity, and also being around people that have achieved great success. None of that's connected to finance or monetary terms. And you look at what Earl's explaining here, and he's explaining people that have they're doing something because they love it. So the gas station guy, the sales guy, the mother, the teacher, they're doing it because it's a passion. I mean, they're deeply passionate about it. That's when you know that you're on the path, when you're really doing something that makes you feel completely energized, that makes you feel that way where you're just can't get enough of it. It's not a chore to do. So let's see how it develops from here.
A success is anyone who is doing deliberately a predetermined job because that's what he decided to do deliberately. But only 1 out of 20 does that. That's why today there isn't really any competition.
Right, so it goes on to say a success is anyone who's deliberately doing something that they plan to do and is doing that because they decided to do that. Meaning that they're not conforming or fitting into a box or landing into a pigeonhole or a silo where society's decided that's where they fit. They've essentially went out, seen what they want to do, they go hunt that down and they go and do it deliberately. This here reminds me, this comment here that says there is no competition. This reminds me of Dana White. So Dana White's clip was him saying that it's so easy today to be a success because the world is so soft. There is no savages out there. In fact, you can be a weekend savage, you can tear it up. You don't need to be a full-time savage. And that's because there's just not the competition. And isn't it wild that in 1957, at the time where there was lots of savages, just after World War II, returning home heroes, war heroes, guys that had fought in war, put it all in the line, there would have been full of savages. And even then, not 10 years later, Earl's saying, hey, there's no competition. And why? Because people aren't deliberately doing what they want to do and what they've decided to do to have the life that they would want to live to feel fulfilled. Isn't that crazy? So it's crazy to think that that's been going on all the time. So this is a strange secret to success. So let's find out what that is.
Unless we make it for ourselves, instead of competing, all we have to do is create. You know, for 20 years, I looked for the key which would determine what would happen to a human being. Was there a key I wanted to know which would make the future a promise that we could foretell to a large extent? Was there a key that would guarantee a person's becoming successful if he only knew about it and knew how to use it? Well, there is such a key, and I've found it. Have you ever wondered why so many men work so hard and honestly without ever achieving anything in particular, and others don't seem to work hard and yet seem to get everything?
So these are what he's relating to here is that the famous version of work smarter, don't work harder. There's lots of people that really put in a hard graft and really do well at putting in the effort, but the effort's maybe not getting the result that they want. And then you've got people that seem to do it effortlessly. They have completely mastered the art of whatever it is that they're doing, and they can almost appear to not need to put any effort in at all, and everything seems to work. So it seems that there's something that some people are doing that a lot of people are missing. Let's see if we can find out what it is.
You've heard them say that about someone. Everything he touches turns to gold. And have you ever noticed that a man who becomes successful tends to continue to become successful? And on the other hand, have you noticed how a man who's a failure tends to continue to fail? Well, it's because of goals. Some of us have goals, some don't. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going. It's that simple. Think of a ship leaving a harbor, and think of it with the complete voyage mapped out and planned. The captain and crew know exactly where it's going and how long it'll take. It has a definite goal. Now, 9,999 times out of 10,000, it will get to where it started out to get. Now, let's take another ship, just like the first, only let's not put a crew on it or a captain at the helm. Let's give it no aiming point, no goal, no destination. We just start the engines and let it go.
So there's a video here for the listeners. There's a video here that's playing, and it's got B-roll footage of ships. And what Errol's saying is that 99.99% of the time, if you've got a goal and you're driving towards it, much like a captain has a destination on a ship. So the destination being the goal and the captain being the person that's driving it, or conducting how it's steered. Meaning, if you have a goal and you're steering yourself towards it, 99.99% of the time, you're going to get there if you keep the momentum up. And then it cuts to another B-roll footage there where a ship is literally crashing into the side of a pier and smashing out the concrete blocks and smashing up the front of the ship. And it cuts to a ship abandoned on shore. How many people are just getting thrown around by life because they haven't deliberately chosen a path and they don't have goals? They're not directing themselves where they want to go. And it's interesting because when I speak to people, and one of the things that have came up from some of the coaching work that I do is that I say to people, go and notice this sort of situation. Whenever you speak to someone and you say, like, hey, look, what kind of life would you like? And they will think about it, and inevitably they'll start with the things that they don't want. I don't want to have bills. I don't want to have financial pressure. I don't want to have debt. I don't want to, I don't want to have a boss. So everything that they frame is all in the negative. And that negative framing is causing them to think continually about what they don't want. Let's see what that does, because it's interesting where this video goes from here.
I think you'll agree with me that if it gets out of the harbor at all, it will either sink or wind up on some deserted beach, a derelict. It can't go anyplace because it has no destination and no guidance, and it's the same with a human being.
Pretty crazy that Earl's got it literally it's simple in its simplest form. If you have goals, you succeed, and if you don't have goals, you're getting washed away with life. So let's get into the Strangest Secret. I thought it was just really, really good how concise and punchy and straight to the point that was. Goals, you succeed. No goals, don't expect success.
Now let's get back to the strangest secret in the world, the story that I wanted to tell you today. Why do men with goals succeed in life and men without them fail? Well, let me tell you something which, if you really understand it, will alter your life immediately. If you understand completely what I'm going to tell you from this moment on, your life will never be the same again. You will suddenly find it. So
Errol's talking about things that, are really, really popular today. People going on about anxiety and depression and down and fear and doubt. All these negative connotations or negative feelings to essentially life. And what he's saying here is that once you realise what the secret is here, what this strangest secret is, it destroys them. It destroys these things that drag people down. Let that sink in. When you apply this secret, it destroys the things that drag you down. So if you destroy the things that drag you down, guess what happens? Things start to work. You feel great. Luck feels like it's on your side. You're drawn towards things. Opportunities present themselves. So let's find out what this is.
Good luck just seems to be attracted to you. The things you want just seem to fall in line, and from now on you won't have the problems, the worries.
Now, important here, what he's saying is this is the key to success and the key to failure. Now, if any of you have been on my mindset calls, we do a coaching call Sunday every weekend. I done an hour-long video on this where I showed you the power of the emotional triad, the emotional triangle, which is the power of your focus and thoughts, how that drives your feelings, or how that makes you feel a certain way, and then those feelings will drive your actions. And it sounds like we're going to get into that here and now, because that same emotional triangle is the same thing. If this is the same secret, it's the same thing that happens, because depending on how you use that triangle, you can either make your life a success, or you can make your life a failure. So let's see what he's got to say.
The gnawing lump of anxiety that perhaps you've experienced before. Doubt, fear, well, they'll be things of the past. Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about. Throughout all history, the great wise men and teachers, philosophers and prophets have disagreed with one another on many different things. It's only on this one point that they are in complete and unanimous agreement. Listen to what Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, said. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it.
There you go. I mean, how much more conclusive do you need it? What you think about, you become. The emotional triangle. What you think about will dictate your feelings, which will drive your actions. And it is like a whipping circle of a tornado, either positively up the way or negatively down the way. So if you think negative thoughts or you focus on negative things, guess what happens? You attract and draw and feel negativity. That then drives your actions or inaction, more importantly, because you feel doubt and uncertainty and fear and anxiety and victimhood, and you just feel pretty helpless. But it works the other way as well. You focus on great and the outcomes and abundance and what it can be, and you ask powerful questions. How can I make this work? How can I be more positive? Then you get the result in the opposite direction. Marcus Aurelius, a blast from the past, is saying a man's life is what his thoughts make of it.
Disraeli said this, everything comes if a man will only wait. I've brought myself by long meditation to the conviction that a human being with a settled purpose must accomplish it, and that nothing can resist a will that will stake even existence for its fulfillment. Ralph Waldo Emerson said this, a man is what he thinks about all day long. William James said, the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives.
I mean, come on, look at this. I mean, this is just a hit list of incredibly powerful observations of people that have changed their mind and changed their world. So a human being can alter their life by altering the attitudes of their mind. How powerful is that you can alter the attitude in your mind and it will alter your life? That is incredibly, incredibly powerful. You are in charge of your mind and you can alter it and you can get better results. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a man is what he thinks about all day. What are you thinking about? What is your thoughts? Do an audit. What were you thinking all day before you seen this episode? What did you think about? Did you have negative thoughts? Did you have positive thoughts? Did you have doubt? Are you focusing on the future? Are you dwelling in the past? Are you thinking about how productive you can be? Are you thinking about what you'd love to try? Are you thinking about the places you'd like to go? Well, maybe you should do an audit, and maybe you should notice what you're thinking about, because as William James said here, altering the attitudes of the mind will alter your life.
Lives by altering their attitudes of mind. And he also said, we need only in cold blood act as if the thing in question were real, and it will become infallibly real by growing into such a connection with our life that it will become real. It will become so knit with habit and emotion that our interest in it will be those which characterize belief. And he also said, if you only care enough for a result, you will almost certainly attain it.
So what they're saying there is the first, again, going back to the inner world and the outer world, because a lot of people are trapped in the outer world. One of the things that we do in the visualization calls over at Mindset is the morning calls is we do the training on the inside part of your world, because you have a mental aspect within that is very rarely trained. And when we train the mental aspect internally, you can start to feel and build belief about what is possible, which then when you feel that inside will transfer to outside. And this is exactly what the guys are talking about here. If you only care enough for a result, you will certainly obtain it. Meaning, if you want that result bad enough, you're likely to get it.
If you wish to be rich, you will be rich. If you wish to be learned, you will be learned. If you wish to be good, you will be good. Only you must then really wish these things, and wish them exclusively, and not wish at the same time 100 other incompatible.
So there's another great point that, I mean, hat off to this guy is literally doing a masterclass on mindset. How many people do you know that have got 100 things going on and they don't jive, they don't connect, they're not compatible with the other things that they've got going on? So they've got this mishmash of things that don't go together. One of the things that I mentor on with people who are stuck with this is the VDS system, which is Vision, Direction, Start, as a podcast that I did that goes into how this works. You can do it yourself, but some people prefer to do that one-to-one. And one of the key component parts is this exact method, which is let's get exactly what you want out in life. Imagine you could get anything. What would it be? What would that outcome be? How would you, tell me if there was no limits at all, what would you like? And then we get that list. And from that list, we can pick what you actually really want. Because in that list, inevitably, is things that you would like to have, but are not really that fussed for. There's things that you take a notion to that you don't actually really want. And then there's a core group of things that you really, really want. And what we do then is actually interpret what you really do want, what's nice to have and what needs to be eliminated from the list. And then what we do is we then go into direction, which is pick the direction in which you want to head. So where do you want to develop this to aim at? So essentially we're building a straight line to the result that you want to get by picking that direction to aim for. And then starting is about doing them in the right order, having them the right priority. So this is like literally nailing everything here. And you can see the connection. You can see these all sewing together. What you focus on, what you think about, you get more of. When you think and focus on these things, you build belief. When you do the internal work, it materializes in the outside world because you see opportunities, you're drawn to things. And if you start to believe that you can get the result, belief is so powerful. Check Big Adam's podcast that we just done last week and notice how his 2.5 month competition season changed when he started to build belief. Powerful, powerful stuff.
In the Bible, you read in Mark 9:23, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth.
So even in the Bible, if you can believe, all things are possible to those who believe. So you're even quoted in the Bible that you are the creator of your world. And if you have belief, if you build belief and you aim at something, you can draw that towards your life.
My old friend Dr. Norman Vincent Peale put it this way: this is one of the greatest laws in the universe. Fervently do I wish I had discovered it as a very young man. It dawned upon me much later in life, and I found it to be one of the greatest, if not my greatest discovery outside of my relationship to God. The great law, briefly and simply stated, is that if you think in negative terms, you will get negative results. If you think in positive terms, you will achieve positive results. That is the simple fact, he went on to say, which is at the basis of an astonishing law of prosperity and success. In 3 words, believe and succeed.
So this is powerful because, as you've maybe seen, I deal with people that have got negative framing, and negative framing is a little bit of a hybrid to what they're describing here. What they're essentially saying is that if you want to get a result in life, you need to be careful how you think about that result, because negativity attracts negativity and positivity attracts positivity. And even people that negatively frame things, you can aim them at a positive result. And that's a way that you can transmute the negative thought to a positive direction. Inevitably, what it means is that you're shifting from that place that feels comfortable and safe in terms of your mindset and actually aiming it to somewhere where you want to go. And that process of transferring it from negative to positive is extremely, extremely powerful. I've seen it happen so many times that you just change your mindset or you change that particular part and it shifts the perspective. It's like taking the handbrake off. You can just launch and go.
William Shakespeare put it this way: our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. George Bernard Shaw said, people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, make them.
So don't let circumstances hold you back. If you don't like your situation, keep going. Find the circumstances that you need. Find the conditions that you want. Make it happen. Don't be held back by, the bumps or obstacles in the road. If you need to adapt and adjust. That's key, absolutely key here. Don't sit in your laurels. Don't sit there hoping it changes. Go out and make it happen. Go and change the circumstances. Go and change the situation.
Well, it's pretty apparent, isn't it? And every person who discovered this for a while believed that he was the first one to work it out. We become what we think about. Now, it stands to reason that a person who's thinking about a concrete and worthwhile goal is going to reach it, because that's what he's thinking about. And we become what we think about.
So an example would be, if you ever have anyone that talks about being in debt, all they get is more debt. If you hear people always talk about being sick, they're always sick. If you hear people that are always talking negatively, guess what? Their lives inevitably are negative. They don't get the results and they're caught up. You become what you think about. And it's so true. And it seems cliche and it seems like it can't be that straightforward. Start noticing how people talk. You will see it everywhere. You get more of what you think about. So be careful to direct and orchestrate your thoughts the way that you want your life to go.
Conversely, the man who has no goal, who doesn't know where he's going, and whose thoughts must therefore be thoughts of confusion and anxiety and fear and worry, becomes what he thinks about. His life becomes one of frustration and fear and anxiety and worry. And if he thinks about nothing, he becomes nothing. Now, how does it work? Why do we become what we think about? Well, I'll tell you how it works as far as we know. Now, to do this, I want to tell you about a situation that parallels the human mind. Suppose a farmer has some land, and it's good fertile land. Now, the land gives the farmer a choice. He may plant in that land whatever he chooses. The land doesn't care. It's up to the farmer to make the decision. Now remember, we're comparing the human mind with the land because the mind, like the land, doesn't care what you plant in it. It will return what you plant, but it doesn't care what you plant. Now let's say that the farmer has two seeds in his hand. One is a seed of corn. The other is nightshade, a deadly poison. He digs two little holes in the earth and he plants both seeds, one corn, the other nightshade. He covers up the holes, waters, and takes care of the land, and what will happen? Invariably, the land will return what's planted. As it's written in the Bible, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Now remember, the land doesn't care. It'll return poison in just as wonderful abundance as it will corn. So up come the two plants, one corn, one poison. Now the human mind is far more fertile, far more incredible and mysterious than the land, but it works the same way. It doesn't care what we plant. Success, failure. A concrete, worthwhile goal, or confusion. Misunderstanding, fear, anxiety, and so on. But what we plant, it must return to us.
Powerful, powerful stuff. Just listen to that. He's making a great analogy between the farmland that's highly fertile in your mind, and meaning that when you start to put things in your mind, it will return what you put in there. So there's famous people throughout the ages. I mean, Bruce Lee comes to mind. He's like, be careful what you say to yourself because you absorb everything in. You know, you're made up of water, and water stores energy, and your mind is incredibly powerful, and it's hypersensitive to what you say to it. So make sure that you're putting positive, optimistic, powerful, empowering suggestions and thoughts and goals and dreams in there, because that will be what the land returns to you. And if you're putting in negativity and doubt and fear and anxiety and victimhood, guess what it's going to return to you? The deadly nightshade. So be careful what you put into your mind. Really, really, really good analogy. So clever. And again, just to re-emphasize, go and see the artwork that these guys after school have done. Absolutely incredible.
You see, the human mind is the last great unexplored continent on Earth. It contains riches beyond our wildest dreams. It will return anything. We want a plant. Now, you might say, well, if that's true, why don't people use their minds more? Well, I think they figured out an answer to that one, too. Our mind comes as standard equipment at birth. It's free, and things that are given to us for nothing we place little value on. Things that we pay money for, we value. The paradox is that exactly the reverse is true. Everything that's really worthwhile in life came to us free. Our minds, our souls, our bodies, our hopes, our dreams, our ambitions, our intelligence, our love of family and children and friends and country, all these priceless possessions are free. But the things that cost us money are actually very cheap and can be replaced at any time. A good man can be completely wiped out and make another fortune. He can do that several times. Even if our home burns down, we can rebuild it. But the things we got for nothing, we can never replace. The human mind isn't used because we take it for granted. Familiarity breeds contempt. It can do any kind of job we assign to it, but generally speaking, we use it for little jobs instead of big, important ones. Universities have proved that most of us are operating on about 10% or less of our abilities. So decide now, what is it you want? Plant your goal in your mind. It's the most important decision you'll ever make in your entire life. What is it you want? Do you want to be an outstanding salesman? A better worker at your particular job? Do you want to go places in your company? In your community? Do you want to get rich? All you've got to do is plant that seed in your mind, care for it, work steadily toward your goal, and it will become a reality. It not only will, there's no way that it cannot. You see, that's a law, like the laws of Sir Isaac Newton, the laws of gravity. If you get on top of a building and jump off, you'll always go down. You'll never go up, and it's the same with all the other laws of nature. They always work. They're inflexible. Think about your goal in a relaxed, positive way. Picture yourself in your mind's eye as having already achieved this goal. See yourself doing the things you will be doing when you've reached your goal. Ours has been called the phenobarbital age, the age of ulcers and nervous breakdowns and tranquilizers, at a time when medical research has raised us to a new plateau of good health and longevity. Far too many of us worry ourselves into an early grave trying to cope with things in our own little personal ways without learning a few great laws that will take care of everything for us. These things we bring on ourselves through our habitual way of thinking. Every one of us is the sum total of his own thoughts. He is where he is because that's exactly where he really wants to be, whether he'll admit that or not. Each of us must live off the fruit of his thoughts in the future, because what you think today and tomorrow, next month and next year, will mold your life and determine your future. You're guided by your mind. I remember one time I was driving through eastern Arizona, and I saw one of those giant earth-moving machines roaring along the road at about 35 miles an hour with what looked like 30 tons of dirt in it. A tremendous, incredible machine, and there was a little man perched way up on top with the wheel in his hands guiding it. And as I drove along, I was struck by the similarity of that machine to the human mind. Just suppose you're sitting at the controls of such a vast source of energy. Are you going to sit back and fold your arms and let it run itself into a ditch? Or are you going to keep both hands firmly on the wheel and control and direct this power to a specific, worthwhile purpose? It's up to you. You're in the driver's seat. You see, the very law that gives us success is a two-edged sword. We must control our thinking. The same rule that can lead a man to a life of success, wealth, happiness, and all the things he ever dreamed of for himself and his family. that very same law can lead him into the gutter. It's all in how he uses it, for good or for bad. This is the strangest secret in the world.
So, I mean, in conclusion of this video, we can, if you want to see the rest of this video, I would urge you to go and check it out. But, I mean, it's just incredible to see here how potent and powerful. I mean, this video is 16 minutes long. I mean, we've covered twice that on the podcast going over this. Just the profound wisdom in here. Like, what are you thinking about? What do you have goals for? Have you set goals? Would you be prepared to apply some of these laws? Would you be prepared to get the life that you want, to be able to provide for your loved ones, to have the aspirations and the goals and the dreams, to get to the age of 65 and not rely on others? Would you be prepared to do that by applying some of your time to mastering these simple laws that you were born with, that you've forgotten how to use? Is it worth your time to do it? I would urge you to start applying these. What I would suggest you do is start to have a very, very loose vision and then make it more and more detailed. Begin the process. Build your goal. Imagine what your life would be like if it was unlimited. Everything that's in this video, I teach at Mount Mindset. Mount Mindset is about training your mind with the apparatus that you were given, that's in us all, to have the life that we want. And you can have that life if you want. All it's going to cost you is your attention and applying these laws. They've been there for all of time. They're mentioned in the Bible and William Shakespeare and some of the greats through the 20th century. And this guy, Earl Nightingale, has wrote a masterpiece on this strange secret to success. If you are serious about success, whatever that means to you, then I urge you, start applying these. Now, if you like this sort of stuff and you want to be around at Mount Mindset, this is the place, the mindset gym, if you like, where you can train your mind. We've got videos. We do group coaching calls. We've got morning visualization calls. I do mentoring one-to-one with people who want to get the most out of themselves. They want to find that apparatus that's in them. They know that they have that burning ember of potential is there telling them, keep going. And we will make sure that you get the most out of your life, because if you go looking, you will find what you want. And all you need to do is to begin. So if you like that sort of stuff, come and visit my website. Come and visit the socials. Come and see what we're doing. Check out the previous podcast episodes. And if you want to see what we're up to, stand by for some of the clips on the visualization calls in the morning, what we're doing with the group coaching calls, and most importantly, the unbelievable results the guys that are getting through mentoring, because it is not the mentoring that does the work. You actually have it inside you. The mentoring just puts you in the prime conditions to get the results that you should be getting, that you deserve to be getting. We just take out some of the dodgy wiring that has been picked up along the way, remind you of where all the great tools are, and then get you to use them in the right order. Guess what happens? Unbelievable, unstoppable success. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Mount Mindset. Big thanks to the guys at After School. Be sure to check their channel out. Go and give them a follow. Incredible work, incredible artwork, incredible videos. And they've got a whole catalogue of great people that have came out with this sort of stuff and much, much more. I think that they're doing fantastic work. It's a pleasure and honour, and deeply grateful to be able to go in and cover off these videos. And I'm sure if you like this sort of stuff and you want to see more of them, hit me up with some suggestions and I'll be sure to do another one in the future. But from me this week, that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys next week.